Hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. And now we find ourselves inside Limerick Castle. And there certainly is loads of information here if you are into history. And it starts off here on the first floor with early Gaelic society. And it says, as Europe stumbled through the Dark Ages, it was Ireland that shone the light of learning through the continent. And then it talks a wee bit about the Irish monasteries. And of course Ireland became known as the land of saints and scholars. And loads of wee videos as well that you can watch here, which are fantastic. This is Henry II of England. It says that he gained his authority to invade Ireland from the Pope, though his excuse was the invitation from the King of Leinster to help restore his territories. Henry was also determined to prevent Anglo-Norman nobles from Wales usurping his authority in the country. So there you go. And then at the bottom it says, the Normans take permanent possession of Limerick, which becomes a royal city directly under the rule of John as Lord of Ireland, and like Dublin and Cork, rather than under the rule of a lord like Galway and Kilkenny. And so that's King John. So the billboards are absolutely fantastic, loads of information, as you can see. So I'll take a wee walk on down. You can see them building the castle. It says that the building of the castle in Limerick and station of a strong military presence here was crucial in enabling the Normans to control the area. Intermarrying with powerful Gaelic families helped to lessen resistance. Here's the growth of Limerick City. It says St Mary's Cathedral. I thought that was actually called St John's, but it's St Mary's. St Mary's Cathedral was Limerick's last pre-Norman building, and the Normans' arrival initiated centuries of fortification and expansion, beginning with King John's castle. And infighting between Norman nobles, the devastation caused by the Black Death, and a general economic decline slowed development in the 14th century. And then it goes on. Loads of information here. Absolutely fantastic. And the videos are very good as well.
In the early 16th century, Limerick was Ireland's third largest city and a busy commercial port. Its important status was reflected by the fact that the Irish Parliament met here 3 times between 1536 and 1557. Remote as it was from the centres of power, Limerick's politics reflected the upheaval unfolding across Europe at the time. In 1527, Henry VIII petitioned Rome to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, so he could marry Anne Boleyn, with whom he hoped to have a son. When the Pope refused, Henry embraced the Protestant Reformation, sparked by Martin Luther, and established himself as supreme head of the Church of England. This radical step enabled him to marry Boleyn and to take possession of church lands and property, which he quickly began to disband and sell off. Henry soon extended the Reformation to Ireland, seeking to dissolve Irish monasteries, appropriate their income, and confiscate their lands. His agent for this policy in Limerick was Irish-born nobleman Edmund Sexton. Originally in the service of the Governor of Ireland, the Heir of Kildare, Sexton switched allegiances when the Earl's son, Sunken Thomas, rebelled against the king in 1534. In 1535, Sexton was appointed mayor of Limerick, the first Irishman ever to hold the post. Supporting Protestantism and reform, Sexton grew rich through the dissolution program, acquiring lands, revenues, and possessions from several religious sites. The following year, the Irish Parliament declared Henry to be the supreme head of the church. In the service of the king, Sexton represented Irish rebels and restricted local merchants from trading with Henry's enemies. He quickly became deeply involved. In 1541, Henry declared himself King of Ireland, and soon afterwards introduced measures to acquire land from Gaelic chiefs and make everyone a subject of the crown. These were fiercely resisted. Sexton died, or some claimed was murdered, in about 1554 after a controversial career. In a gruesome act of apparent revenge, his body was removed from his tomb in St. Mary's Cathedral and hung on heels for the chancel sale. The Reformation sowed seeds of change and conflict throughout Ireland. As the 16th century wore on, the consequences would come to dominate and divide the country.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You can see there, between 1536 and 1557, the Irish Parliament met 3 times in Limerick. There's Limerick in 1535.
Wow, look at her dress, it's pretty. Does she want to go?
You can see the castle, and then that's St. Mary's.
This one.
Fantastic.
Oh, this one
This is actually detailing Henry VIII's grant to Edmund, the Saxon.
Oh, this is about importing and exporting goods like.
Fantastic. There's Henry VIII. Reluctantly becomes King of Ireland. As Gaelic chieftains and Anglo-Irish lords continue to challenge English authority throughout Henry VIII's reign, the Crown tried several policies, including direct rule and the policy of surrender and re-grant, to control Ireland more effectively. And this centre one is of Sunken Thomas, son of the Earl of Kildare, and he renounces his allegiance to Henry VIII. There's Henry himself, and English expansion, partly due to the much greater administration needed to extend the Reformation to Ireland. English government involvement in Ireland was nigh greater than at any time since the 14th century. So was its use of military force. There's 1st of July 1543. Murragh O'Brien, Lord of Thomond, and a descendant of Brian Burrow, is created Earl of Thomond. Under the terms of surrender and re-grant, he agrees to the introduction of English law and customs, and his territories. Limerick will be loyal regardless of the wishes of its people. And that's the Gaelic clans. It's those that could not be brought under subjection with 10,000 men cometh to Dublin with the latter. And it says, Government Advisor Thomas Cossack describes the initial success of surrender and regrant in winning the loyalty of the Gaelic chieftains, including Con O'Neill and the Earls of Thomond. There you go. Now you can see the heads. And that's what they did in those days. If you rebelled, you lost your head. And then it was paraded up on a spike, as you can see. And it says there, head this way, as you can see that. Tour continues. There's a soldier. I saw their Chichester, the flight of the Earls.
And the native Irish Catholics now share the same fate, exclusion. Their language outlawed, their powers revoked, their culture marginalized. And yet,
And that's Elizabeth I. There were 3 major rebellions during Elizabeth's reign. All were ruthlessly suppressed. It's Ireland under Elizabeth I. If you want to read any of the information, just pause the video and hopefully you'll be able to zoom in. And I'm going to finish off in this first floor with the video behind us. There's some of the billboards. That's the 9 Years' War. And that's Hugh O'Neill. A turning tide in 1598, Hugh O'Neill defeated English forces at the Battle of the Yellow Ford between Armagh and the River Blackwater, sending shockwaves of alarm throughout England. Now you can see an Irishman there with that's the English soldiers carrying an Irishman's severed head, as you can see.
by the late Middle Ages, Limerick is truly a wondrous proper city. Its port clamours with merchants. Its narrow streets are as busy as the great medieval hubs of Dublin and London. At its centre, already standing for over 250 years, is King John's Castle. In the 12th century, the art of the stonemason helped create this mighty structure. A royal mint emphasized its significance. The castle symbolizes English power in the region. Yet these stone walls also signify something more, the demise of Gaelic Ireland. Since at least the 6th century, Gaelic society produced beautiful manuscripts, metalwork and sculpture. It had a strong culture of learning and, in Brehon law, its own sophisticated legal system. All this began to change with the arrival of the Vikings. In the 8th century, they wrought havoc on the country's monasteries, disrupting the quiet pursuit of art and education. In the 9th century, they established new settlements that would later become international cities, including one on the banks of the Shannon. 300 years later, English and Welsh troops arrived in Waterford by invitation from Dermot MacMurrough. When Strongbow married Dermot's daughter Aoife in 1170, Norman control of Ireland was assured. A second age of foreign influence began. The Normans introduced their own laws, language and customs. Yet they also integrated, adopting local traditions and intermarrying with powerful families. By the time we reach the late Middle Ages, Limerick is a thriving city, and the old Gaelic culture is in decline. Looking to the 16th century, there will be further attempts to colonize the Irish people and suppress the Gaelic way of life. These will be met with violent resistance. Dark clouds begin to gather when England splits from the Vatican, sending shockwaves through Europe. In Limerick, Henry VIII appoints Edmund Sexton as the city's first Irish mayor. Sexton adopts the new Protestant religion and grows rich, acquiring lands and revenues from religious sites. As the face of the Reformation, he becomes deeply unpopular. In 1541, Henry is declared King of Ireland and attempts to impose direct rule from England. The Gaelic population and the descendants of the old Norman settlers, now viewed as the old English, fiercely resist. They continue to practice Catholicism and cling to the language and customs of their forefathers, but they are increasingly isolated. Gaelic Ireland, once defined by its customs and culture, is now dominated by two powerful new forces: change and conflict. In 1558, Elizabeth I becomes queen. Under her reign, Protestant England and Catholic Ireland grow further divided. Fearing that the Irish will ally with Spain, she invokes martial law to enforce her rule. When rebels rise in Munster, she responds brutally, massacring civilians and imposing a scorched earth policy. It brings famine to the country and the people to their knees. And yet, the insurrections continue. After a second rebellion in 1579, Elizabeth introduces a new tactic: plantation. Munster lands are offered to English settlers, displacing the Irish and creating further division and bitterness. The Irish respond with a third rebellion. Led by the Earl of Tyrone, Hugh O'Neill, it would be the last great stand of Gaelic Ireland. The war continues for 9 long years. Despite enlisting Spanish help, the Irish suffer a decisive defeat at the Battle of Kinsale. Finally, in 1603, they surrender. Beaten and dispirited, O'Neill and his closest supporters sail for Spain on the 14th of September 1607. With them goes any hope of an end to English rule. The exodus becomes known as the Flight of the Earls. For the Gaelic way of life, already in decline for 400 years, it is a dramatic blow. Strongbow's Norman descendants and the native Irish Catholics now share the same fate: exclusion. Their language outlawed, their powers revoked, their culture marginalized. And yet, while the Gaelic chiefs have gone, their cause is not forgotten. In the 17th century, new generations will rise to settle old grievances. It is a struggle that will be fought with deadlier weapons and greater brutality than either side has ever witnessed. It is a struggle that will be measured in blood and bone. And at its beating heart stands the fortress of King John's Castle.